And we'll make a start. So welcome everybody to day 3 of TUC Organising Conference. Thank you especially for getting up Saturday morning. And it's a shame we're not all together in Durham today, I guess. My name is Anthony Hayes. I'm the digital campaigner at the TC, and I've been here for the last couple of years in this role. I'll be hosting our Skillshare session today on how unions can use online petitions to complement organising and campaigning. With me tonight, I'm joined by Moira Cully from Victorian Trades Hall Council in Australia, who'll be sharing some experiences from her work. Do you want to introduce yourself, Moira?
Sure. Hi, my name is Moira. I'm a digital organiser at the Victorian Trades Hall Council. We're a state-based peak body for unions, so we represent over 40 unions and 400,000 members. And the work that I do there is to run Megaphone, the petition platform, and supporting unions around Australia to run digital campaigns.
Excellent. And just before we get started tonight, a little bit of housekeeping. So if you've got questions, put them in the Q&A box over there. We'll get to them at the end. This session will be on the shorter side, so we should have plenty of time to go through questions and get into specifics for people. We'll also be posting our solidarity chat guidelines in the chat box now. So have a read of those if you haven't yet, if you haven't managed to yet, and be comradely. So just a little bit of an outline of the session we're going to do today. Sorry, give me a second. So a bit of an outline of this session. So we're going to talk a little bit about why we run petitions, why we run online petitions. Obviously, petitions aren't new. They've been around for a long time, online petitions, but we're still just going to go over some of the benefits of them. We're going to give you a little bit of background about the Megaphone campaigns platform, a product run by the TUC. We're also going to go into a couple of case studies of how unions have used petition to organise and campaign and win. We're going to talk a little bit about what we've learned about petitions from the last kind of 5 or 6 years, and we'll talk a little bit about what makes an effective petition. The first thing that I want to say is that petitions don't replace traditional organising and campaigning. They should be used as part of a multifaceted campaign. So obviously the best tactic that we have, and everyone here will know, is to strike. But sometimes if we're not ready for that, or the rules restrict it, we need to look to other tactics to complement those. Petitions should be used in collaboration with whatever other tactics we're using and suit the campaign. And obviously they don't fit every campaign, but most they will. And we're going to talk a little bit about some other digital tactics tonight as well. None of them replace face-to-face organising or meetings, but they are really effective. Digital can be really effective in helping us reach more people with them, or identify the people we do need to speak to with our face-to-face organising. So why we run petitions, I'm going to talk a little bit about this, some more detail about list building in a second, but building a list is really, really important, and building an email list of our supporters is really important. Pressuring decision makers, of course. A lot of petitions that are run, you know, the kind of, they target the Prime Minister. Petitions like Stop Brexit or Impeach Trump, those sort of ones, they don't put a lot of pressure on the Prime Minister or the President, but some of the petitions we're going to talk about today that are a little bit smaller scale can have an impact on local MPs, on middle management, in industrial campaigns. They can really put pressure on bosses. Petitions can also help us find members who can take further action. So they can step up to be reps in the workplace. They can, you know, we can identify people to take action and recruit more members, everything like that. And they also help us to find potential members. So if we run a petition in a workplace, we will have non-members signing those petitions often, and that's an organising opportunity for us. The number one reason that organisations run online petitions is to build their email list. Anyone that tells you anything different is pulling your leg. And what we've found is that if you want to build an email list, petitions beat absolutely everything. They're the most effective way to get people to give you your email address and to follow them up in campaigns. Every couple of years, there's a kind of new gimmicky way to get people's email addresses and to get people signing on to things. But the only one that's really consistent has been online petitions. And people keep signing petitions. We laugh about this regularly. We'll stop running them when people stop signing them, because people are really willing to sign on. WhatsApp groups, I should say, might be starting to challenge this a little bit. They were used quite effectively. I know Momentum used them in the general election to get people to take digital actions, and they were quite effective. I also know, I think the GMB have been using WhatsApp groups as well to get people to do things. So WhatsApp might be starting to challenge that, but I think it's a while off until we can say that, that WhatsApp has replaced email or is better than email. WhatsApp's also a little bit harder because we need people to give us their phone number, and they're more reluctant to give us their phone number for WhatsApp. So it might be better used for a small, really engaged group rather than a bigger group. Capturing email address when people come to your website is important as well, or anytime they do a survey with the union or interacts with you online. You should think about a way to try and capture email address, because email address means we can go back to people time and time again. Once you've got their email address, you can contact them whenever you like. And Facebook, I mean, while it can be a really useful campaigning tool, and while Facebook groups can be really good for organising, Facebook pages and Facebook pages for unions, they're not getting fantastic reach. So if you're really good at Facebook, you can get 8 to 15% of your Facebook fans to see your posts, but it's really, really difficult. The Facebook algorithm changes mean that pages are really difficult now. Your union content on Facebook is competing with every cute cat video and every far right conspiracy that's made to get you to click on. You're competing with that kind of stuff that's made to be clicked on. So it's really difficult to control what people can see. That's why email is a really good way to contact our supporters and members digitally. So in order to make it easier for unions to run petitions and to start to build up a big union list, Megaphone UK was launched last year by the TUC. It's also run in Australia and has been since about 2015. And what it means is that unions can really quickly log on, start a campaign, and go from not having a campaign to having a petition really, really quickly, and they can run it on a site that's union friendly. Both at the TUC and in Australia, unions are also supported in running their petitions, and so are their members when they want to run them. So we'll give a bit of extra support to make sure those campaigns can win from people who have experience in campaigns and in organising. It can also host petitions, but it can host email campaigns as well, so targeted email campaigns if it needs to. This is just a really quick overview of kind of growth on Megaphone in the last 5 years or so. So it just ticked over 1 million signatures globally. 830,000 of those are in Australia. That's over the last about 5 years. And 210,000 in the UK since last year. And the bit I think that's our biggest measure of success is how many unions are using the platform. So we've got 80 unions using the platforms across those two countries. Like I said, it was built to support union campaigns because there wasn't a designated site for unions, Australian unions, to start petitions in Australia, to build that big union list that we can all use when we need to. And also to test campaigning and organising tactics and then collectivise those learnings. So we really wanted to see how petitions and digital tactics could be used to support union campaigns. And then we wanted to share those learnings with the rest of the movement so that we could get better at it.
So I'm going to talk about 2 case studies today from Australia. The first one is about our wage theft campaign, and the second one is about some recent work that we've been doing in response to coronavirus impacts. So we've been campaigning for years to make wage theft a crime. These are just a few of the many petitions that unions have started about wage theft, exposing an issue that everyone knew was happening in the industry, but making it a national political and media issue. So I'm just going to take you through one of them that we had a win on last year. Can we have the next slide, please, Anthony? Thanks. So this is a picture of Orla. She's a member of Hospo Voice, which is the hospitality union, and she worked at a restaurant called Hellenic Republic as a waiter for 2 years, where she was underpaid thousands of dollars. That restaurant happened to be owned by George Colombaris, who's a celebrity chef. He's a judge on MasterChef Australia, and he's a really notorious wage thief. There have been stories for years that he's stolen millions of dollars from workers. He kind of became one of the biggest villains of this campaign over the years that we've been running it. So last year, when a new report came out saying that he owed 500 workers more than $7.5 million, we knew it was a really big moment for us to jump on. He's a household name. It fits our narrative about wage theft perfectly. And we knew that there was an impacted member who was able to be the face of a petition. So yeah, that's right. We can go to the next one. So we worked with Orla and her union to get a petition up within hours of the story breaking, and we sent it out to our entire list. As Anthony was saying, like, we've been building it up for years for moments like this. And we worked with Hospo Voice and the Australian Council of Trade Unions to send it out as well. This is a strategy like exposing particular businesses that Hospo Voice has been using for years, and we've been working with them on to make petitions about specific venues that have stolen workers' wages. And there's a couple of different reasons that they do it. So firstly, it puts pressure on businesses that we know have stolen wages. Secondly, it helps us to build the public narrative around wage theft. And thirdly, it helps them to identify Hospo workers who could become members. So it's a bit small, but you might be able to see on here, there's a tick box that says, I'm a Hospo worker. So that's a list of people that they can go back to and ask to join the union. And they've used this tactic heaps of times before to win back wages with just a few thousand signatures. Because this one was like such a big national media story, it blew up. It was their biggest ever petition, and they got 27,000 signatures in just a couple of days, and they won. So a couple of days later, George Colombaris resigned from MasterChef. It took some time, but Orla's won back more than $7,000 in stolen wages. And last month, the Victorian government passed legislation to make wage theft a crime, which was massive, and it wouldn't have happened without unions running these digital campaigns over many years. The second case study is a response to the impacts of coronavirus. So Australian unions successfully ran a campaign to win a wage subsidy in Australia, but the way that it was implemented has meant that it's been really easy for bad bosses to get away with taking advantage of the scheme. So we, as soon as it came in, responded quickly by setting up this website where workers could dub in their dodgy boss. So it's basically just a form where they can report where they work and what's happening and what their boss is doing that's wrong. We had organisers then from our campaigns team and from the Young Workers Centre making phone calls to everyone who reported their boss, and where there were multiple workers from the same workplace, helping them to organise and to win the correct wage subsidy that they were meant to be getting. And one of the asks on that phone call was if they were willing to be the public face of a petition. So this is Wendy. She is a casual worker at General Pants, which is a retail store, and she's worked there for more than 5 years. And the problem that Wendy had was that General Pants decided to not pay her the wage subsidy because she took approved time off to visit her family and study for exams. And this was something that we found out by talking to Wendy and other workers who'd signed up to the JobScan website. It was something that was affecting hundreds of casual workers across the company. So we helped Wendy to set up a petition and promote it with other workers. And she joined her union, the SDA, and appeared on national TV to talk about it. And we sent it out to our list. So General Pants isn't a very big company, and it was quite hard for us to find workers because of that. They only have something like 20 stores across the country. But again, you can see there's a tick box on this petition here that says, I work at General Pants. And by sending it out to our whole list and Wendy promoting it with other workers, we're able to identify about 30 other workers who were affected by this issue and worked at General Pants as well. And we were then able to invite them to a Zoom call. And since then, they've organised to send a letter to the CEO demanding that they be paid the wage subsidy the same as everyone else. They're all now in a Facebook group with about 50 workers and have started escalating their campaign. So we haven't won for Wendy yet, but we're feeling really hopeful about it because we've got more workers joining the campaign, and we've used the Job Scammer website with Megaphone petitions to organise workers at a couple of other stores to win back their jobs and be paid a wage subsidy. That's it, Anthony, if you want to.
Great, thanks. I wanted to give an example of a couple of local campaigns as well. This one was run by Wetherspoon's workers with the support of the Bakers Union. They collected, they got 14,416 people to write to Tim Martin because they were laid off just before the furlough scheme was announced, and they won and were opted in. They didn't get all of their demands, but I think the exciting bit of this is that they then moved workers into WhatsApp groups and have been organising them since then. And I just wanted to show as well, this is an old campaign. People might be probably remember the TGI Fridays dispute that Unite were running. So this one was a really good example of, there was ongoing industrial action obviously at TGI Fridays and lots of on-the-ground organising, but they accompanied it with a petition. This was collecting more information about TGI Fridays workers, so we were identifying more workers through it, and we were also identifying TGI Fridays customers, so we could target them with specific communications to ask them to take action next time they were in store or to support the workers there. I want to show just as well, this is from YouGov, just a graph of how the action at TGI Fridays impacted on the brand. So alongside the industrial action that those workers took, Unite did really well in running the digital petition alongside it and also running a press campaign. And this really started to impact the perception of TGI Fridays as an employer. So this is just one kind of tool we can have up our sleeve. If we blow up kind of ongoing and existing campaigns in media when it works for us, they can have a real impact on the brand perception of organisations. And that's a kind of, that's a stick. If they want to treat their workers badly or resist union organising.
Yeah, this one's just to say that one of the things that we've learned from Australian petitions is that it's a really good way to engage young people. So half of all Megaphone petition signers are millennials in Australia, and it's also reflected in the fact that of the occupations of people who sign, the highest ranked occupation is student by a long way.
And this was a bit of a surprise to us. We thought that the age bracket for petitions would be much closer to what it is for trade unions, and it's not. So I think 23% of union members in the UK are under 35, but we're getting petitions at about 38% of people are under 35. So we are engaging with young people who are not in trade unions at a rate higher than what we thought. I was going to say in this slide young people, but Moira laughed at me and said that millennials aren't young people. So make what you will of that. This is younger than we thought it was going to be. So just a little bit on kind of what makes petitions grow. So the number one reason a petition will grow and go big is because it happens in a big moment. So the biggest recent petitions have been around, coronavirus. A lot of organisations have grown their list because it's a massive, what we call moment. Brexit petitions were doing really well. Lots of people were signing them and they were going really far because they were a moment. When Trump was elected, there were a whole bunch bunch of kind of, sack Trump petitions. That's the kind of biggest factor in whether or not a petition gets a few signatures or a couple of million. So being out first for us is really important on campaigns and claiming that space. The rules of general campaigning all apply as well. Is a campaign widely felt and is it deeply felt? That will have a big impact. Widely felt, deeply felt as well. It doesn't need to be throughout the entire population. It just needs to be within our target audience. So if it's widely felt and deeply felt among TGI Friday's workers, then that's worth a campaign because they're the people whose signature that we want. And it really helps as well to tell a personal story. It's much better than an organisation asking for things. So a person telling their story about how being sacked or the closure of their car plant is much more effective than an organisation explaining with facts and figures the economic impact of something like that. So personal stories are really effective. We saw in one of those campaigns Moira talked about before, Wendy was the face of that campaign, and that's a much more impactful campaign. And it also leads to more press coverage too, if it's a worker leading on that campaign with the support of their union. But unions have a little bit of a hack here, which is we have a lot of members and we often have their email address. So if a union emailed a petition to their entire membership list, that's a really, really good start on a petition. So it might not grow much further than that if it doesn't hit any of those other kind of criteria, but we do have a big start if we've got a big email list. Your union may also have a big supporter email list, and that's really useful. And also if you work with a bunch of allies or you work with other unions, that's another way to get your petition growing really, really well. The best petitions are best union petitions are the ones that are supported by multiple unions, multiple industries, and across the board. They're the ones who do the best. Just wanted to chuck up a couple of examples of good petition titles. There was an interesting report done by Change.org recently about language in petition titles. I think it's worth a look if you want to do a really deep dive on this, but I think me and Moira both agree that kind of language in petitions is not it's not going to make your petition go far. Being in the moment is going to make it go far. Having a really good understanding of the campaign, picking the right target, they're the kind of things that are going to help. And the words they're important, but they're not as important as those things. So here's a couple of good examples though. The top one's from the FBU and FBU petition. Really clear, this is exactly what it wants. And it also specifies where it is, which is a really good thing to do. Because for people that live in Devon and Somerset, that means more to them. And our second one, obviously, really, really clear and a good use of the word exploitative there with 0 hours contracts and adds a bit of emotion to it. So. But in saying that, sometimes we get surprised by these things. This petition, which people who work in comms might be a little bit frightened at because I don't know what the Electrical Contracting Award MA25 is or what NECA is. And I think that the image used in this petition might make a few designers worry. This one did really, really well. Started by a union organiser, the Electricians Union. They got 4,000 signatures in a couple of days and they got a win on this campaign. So if you care deeply about your campaign, if it's widely felt and deeply felt by your members or your target audience, then it can be a winning campaign regardless of the name. I love this one. No idea what it's about, but those guys do, and they signed it and they won. And just a really good use of using a petition alongside traditional union organising and campaigning. Another thing that I want to say is that small campaigns can win as well. So that petition before, it only had 4,000 signatures, but that was enough to get a win. A lot of the Hospo Voice campaigns that Moira talked about, they've got kind of like a couple of thousand signatures, maybe sometimes 300 signatures, that sort of thing, and they can still win. So it doesn't need to be millions on petitions millions on the petition in order to win. It just needs to be a smart campaign as a part of a kind of used alongside a bunch of other tactics, and it can win. The average petition on change.org, for instance, that wins has 500 signatures. So it's not those massive big ones that win campaigns necessarily. We've had petitions win sometimes with 50 or 60 signatures. The boss will see it, get really worried about it, and change their mind, or come to the table, whatever the ask may be. I want to give a shout out to some others in this space as well. So Labour Start is another really, really good option for unionists wanting to run campaigns and email actions. And Eric Lee over there has kind of pioneered digital actions and trade unions. So they're another good option for unions to use, particularly on international solidarity campaigns. They're great. The parliamentary petition site is also a popular option. So these can be really good to get a government response, but you'll need 10,000 signatures to get that. And then at 100,000 signatures, Parliament will consider the petition for debate. So it's obviously a good option, and they're kind of attractive rewards. They can be really good for your members. The only kind of problem with these is that you don't get to contact the petition signers, and you won't be able to contact them for your next campaign. So if you do a parliamentary petition on the site there, all of the people that you get to sign your petition, you're not going to be able to go back to them the next time you've got a campaign. And you're going to have to start from scratch, really. You're going to have to start from 0 signatures again the next time you want to get a petition signed. So, you know, what we're trying to do is build a big union list so that union campaigns can get to that 100,000 number whenever we like. If we have a list of 1 million, we can hit that 100,000 mark on a lot of petitions really, really regularly. But we do need the contact details of those people to be able to go back to them time and time again. 100,000 and, you know, be considered for a parliamentary debate is fantastic. It's great, but 100,000 signatures on a petition is a lot. And it doesn't happen very often. It happens, but I don't know how many there are a year on the parliamentary petition site. But it doesn't happen very often. So it's fantastic if you can get it. It's very, very difficult though. And I'd probably rather have 50,000 and have their email addresses than get 100,000 for the next campaign.
The thing we just wanted to say about using other petition platforms is just to be aware of some of the private petition platforms that exist out there, especially change.org. So change.org are not progressive, as you can tell by this petition. They're giving the far right a platform to organise. So they host petitions which are racist, sexist, homophobic and anti-union, things that go against union values and which we would never, petitions that we would never approve to be on Megaphone. They're also a for-profit company, so they just want your data. In Australia, they've tried to sell our own member data back to us. So this is a screenshot here from an email where they offered to sell us data to use in an election campaign. And we know that they've offered it to other organisations as well. So if you want to keep your members' data safe and keep using it for future campaigns, it's not safe with change.org, and I wouldn't recommend using them.
Great. So we're going to just take some questions now. So if you've got any more questions, put them in the chat box. I'm just going to pick some out. So. Sarah, to answer your question about GDPR, yes, GDPR has had a really big impact on how quickly we can grow email lists. It's made it much harder with active opt-in and who you can share lists with and that sort of thing. While that's been a little bit of a headache, I think it's probably it's a good thing. That our members' data is supported, is kept safe and protected in law. So it's been a bit of an issue. It does mean we need to be better at running petitions, and it does mean we need to work together more though, because less people are signing and joining onto our list. We need to be better at all these things. So yeah, it's a bit of an issue, and it will continue to be, but we're working on it. And then, Henry, your question about GDPR as well, about how we're not breaking the list. We did a huge amount of work at the TUC when GDPR came in to ensure that Megaphone was compliant. We're regularly getting advice on improving that and making sure that we keep our data safe, that we are abiding by the rules. So that's really important. For unions, it's really, I think a lot of our unions have really done well in adapting to the GDPR rules. Megaphone as well, any union that run petitions on Megaphone, it's kind of, it is set up to be GDPR compliant. So all of our petitions are GDPR compliant. We do have some issues in sharing lists directly, but we're working out ways around that, and we work with unions to email all the members and all the petitions, all the emails on their petitions. Great. I'm going to take Lucy's questions about individual members to use it for community issues. Predominantly, we are a platform for unions and union members to run workplace issues. Occasionally, a community issue and a workplace issue will be the same, in which case we will run it, of course, but predominantly for workplace campaigns. I think we're probably the best campaign site for workplace campaigns and for union campaigns. There might be some other ones for community issues though that people look to use. We're really trying to kind of focus on the space that's workers' rights and it's unions. That's us. In Australia, it's a little bit different. They take petitions on all sorts of things and from all sorts of people. Obviously, they're always progressive and worker friendly, but they take petitions from a much broader range. In the UK, we're really focusing on the union space. So, Rhiannon, your question is, in terms of external reach, do we feel that Megaphone has the edge over other petition sites like Change.org, 38 Degrees, etc.? I don't think that Megaphone has an edge over those sites at the moment. What I will say, though, is that because their lists are bigger and they've been building them for a huge amount of time, what I will say is, though, our list, while it's smaller, are really committed to trade union issues. A lot of them are trade union members. A lot of them aren't as well, which is a good thing, but a lot of them are trade union members. And also, we will go the extra yards in supporting union petitions that other sites may not do. So we will email it to a broader list. I'm not sure if Change will do that for free. That's not something that they've been doing or thinking about that I know of. 38 Degrees, I know that some unions have worked with 38 Degrees and that seems to be beneficial. I'm not sure if Megaphone has the edge over 38. Probably not, because they've been around for a little bit longer. But I think that Megaphone won't be far off. We've got 20 unions using us regularly, and I'd rather us have a smaller list of people who really care about workers' rights and will, sign solidarity campaigns regularly, than a list of millions of people who may not be ready to take action on workers' rights. So.
I think there's a couple of questions in the chat as well as in the question and answer thing.
Yeah. Oh, okay, in the chat box. Megaphone has not been used in campaigns to win union recognition. I wish that would be great. Sometime soon, hopefully. Predominantly, our unions are not started by me or by the TUC. It's usually our unions who start them, and we just kind of get in behind them and support them. So, and then Francis. Yeah, Francis, you've used it, Megaphone for a UCU campaign. We currently on Megaphone do not allow petition starters to directly download the email lists. That's because of GDPR rules. We're really cautious of doing the right thing with GDPR rules. while we're working on that, and we're hoping to do some data agreements with unions, which means that we can share them directly with the unions and union organisers. While we're doing that, we will email union petition. We will email signers whatever you like, and we'll work with you ways to get them onto your list. So you're able to email your members, the petition signers, directly through the platform, and we can email them for you as well. That's not ideal. We want unions to be able to get the data from their petitions directly and put it into their own systems and to campaign to those lists. We're not there just yet. We are taking a conservative approach to GDPR, and we want to make sure that we have agreements in place with unions about so we're covered for everything in that answer. Yes, I would say an open letter is a form of petition. Sometimes we have petitions on Megaphone, and we just call it an open petition, an open letter. But it's a very similar. Great. I think that's. I just want to say about getting advice on handing in petitions. I can see there's a question there in the chat box about it. We do let unions download a list of kind of names that they can go and hand in though for petitions. That's a really, really good tactic to use once you've run your petition, is to go and do a hand in. It often gets some media attention. It's often a really good social media moment too. So that's a really good way to do it. That tactic has been used and tried for a long time though. So I think the most effective versions of petition hand-ins are when you get creative. Some other organisations have been really, really good at that. And you can look to them. I've seen things where people print out, a single page per petition signer. People have printed out massive ground stickers and stuck them on the ground. So politicians have to walk over the signers of petitions as they enter Parliament. The more creative you can get with petition hand-ins these days, the more chance you are of creating a really nice moment on social media and getting some press along too. Excellent. I hope I haven't missed any questions in the chat box, but I can't see any in here. We might call it there. Thank you all for joining us. It's been great. If you've got any more questions, you can email us at the TUC. And you can start a petition on Megaphone anytime you like as well. The button is there and you're ready to go. I hope this has been useful for people. Like I said as well, petitions are just one digital tactic. We do lots of them all the time, but we are a big fan. We think that petitions are the kind of the gateway drug into digital campaigns. The first thing to go. Excellent. Please stay. You've got probably enough time now. You've got 20 minutes before the next session of the conference. So please make yourself a cup of tea and then get involved. Thank you for giving us your Saturday morning, and solidarity to you all.